Warning: this video contains strobe effects and flashing lights and may not be suitable for people with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised. Hey everyone, my name is Pavel Kotov and today we will continue our visual effects series. Today we will learn how to create visual effects for music tracks. I'm sure each one of us has this music track or music album which really resonates with us, and us being artists, we want to do something for it, to visualize something for it. And that's exactly what we will learn today. We can use the vibes of this track, the rhythm, the volume, to visualize it and make our geometry dance intact with the track. As you can see, there are several different visual effects, which all are working intact with music. We have an equalizer bar, which corresponds with bass, middle and high frequencies. We have a disco ball, so to say, which changes the shape, and also we have a material. It also is animated, the image changes and always is moving intact with music. Alright, let's go to Blender and create these effects. The main instrument here will be Blender's ability to import sound as F-curves. Let's go to Animation tab, set a keyframe, let's say to location. Then let's go to the DOP sheet and press Ctrl Tab. Now we are in the curves mode, and as we can see, there are 3 curves. Let's hide X and Y and select Z, which corresponds to up and down movement of our object. Now let's go to Key menu, then Bake Sound to F-curves, and then let's just select our music file through File Browser. Now let's press Bake Sound to F-curves. And now, as you can see, that location curve changed. Now it represents the overall rhythm of music. For now it doesn't look very nice, it's kind of wobbly, and we don't hear any music on the background. For that, let's add a speaker into Blender. Now we just need to go into speaker settings and select the file that we used for curves. As you can see, it already kinda resembles the sound that we added, but it is a bit random and wobbly. That is because we have only one music track for our curve. So all our basses, all our mids and high frequencies, all the frequencies of the instruments are basically baked into one curve. And we see exactly that. This weird behavior is happening because first we have the whole music track with all the frequencies combined generating our curve, and second, the curve detalization is very high. So each little bit, each little frequency change corresponds with up and down movements and make the cube really jumpy, really wobbly. Also, as we can see, the amplitude of cube up and down movement is pretty low, it barely even moves. So we want to edit it as well, but we can't because it is a generated curve and we can't edit it. Or can we? You see, the curve generated by the music is non-editable, but we can bake this curve into the action, into the keyframes, and as you may know, we can control keyframes, we can edit them. So to fix this problem, we just need to bake the curve into an action. Let's do just that. First, we need to make sure that our mouse cursor is in the 3D view and the cube is selected. Then let's press F3 and put here bake and select bake action. Then let's select these two check marks and make sure that the end frame is exactly where our music track ends. After that, let's press F3 again, bake action, put these three check marks and press OK. And now all the curves are baked into an action. Let's hide everything except the location, so we can edit it without any interference. Then let's go here and set the 3D cursor, so we can scale from the 3D cursor. In this case I've set it to 0, but you can set it wherever you want. Now let's just scale it by y-axis, and as you can see, the amplitude of the cube also grew. Now we have something more dynamic, something that represents the music better. Alright, and now we have this curve. This curve is actually our main character, because we can just copy it and paste it to whatever we want. We just select all the curve, press Ctrl C and then go, let's say, to the scales, and press here Ctrl V from the first keyframe. And done. Now our cube will be also pulsing. Alright, now we know the basics of this effect. We know how to create a curve that will be pulsing to the rhythm of the music, and how to create an action which we can then edit and then reuse it in any animation that we want. But still, we have some problems: the high sensitivity of the animation and the fact that it uses the whole music track, not the different frequencies. If we want a visual equalizer, we need different frequencies, and thus we need to use some audio editing software. My program of choice is Audacity. It is free and easy to use and easy to understand audio editing software. It has all the tools that we need to achieve today's goal. Of course, if you are more familiar with other audio editing software, it's completely fine, because we will be doing just basic stuff. Basically, we will be just separating the track into three different frequencies: basses, mids and highs. So let's start. After opening Audacity, we will be greeted with this window. We just need to drag and drop our music track into the window. It will automatically create strips for the track. Now we need to select all the track by double clicking it. It will turn white. After that, we need to go to Effects and select here Graphic EQ. Here it has remembered my previous setup, but for you all the knobs will be right in the center. Now as you can see, there are 31 knobs, and we just basically divide it by 3 and take 10, 10 and 11. 10 from the right, 10 in the middle, and then 10 on the left. So highs, mids and basses. We need to put down all the knobs except all the frequencies that we need. By doing that, we will filter the frequencies. For now, this setup is good for high frequencies. So let's leave it at that and press OK. Now it filtered only high frequencies. Let's listen to it. Yeah, it doesn't sound great, but we don't need the sound. We just need the frequencies to create the curve, and this will create a great curve for high frequency animation. If you are more familiar with music editing than me, I have only basic knowledge, then you will be able to make it cleaner and more accurate, but still that will do as well. Alright, now let's export it. We press File, Export, MP3, and then we need to set the destination folder and the name. As you can see, I already have 3 presets for high, mids and basses. Let's call our new track High 1, and export it and press OK. After 1 or 2 seconds the export is done, and now let's just press Ctrl Z to return the track to its original state, and then let's just repeat everything but with the mid frequencies. Alright, looks good, let's press OK. And now it looks pretty full, very loud. Alright, that won't do. Let's press Ctrl Z and change the effect a little, because when it is too loud we can lose a lot of details. It will be just cuts on the top. So let's bring the knobs a little bit down, pressing OK. Much better. Now we have all the details. Okay, the mids are now separated. Let's export them again and call them mid 1. And then again Ctrl Z, and let's separate the basses. Okay, looks great. Let's listen to it a little bit because it sounds amazing. Oh, that's nice. Alright, let's export the basses. And back to Blender. In my project I used 2 bones to create this equalizer effect. One bone was right here. Let's add it. Also let's delete the cube, we don't need it anymore. In edit modes, let's copy the bone, and now we have the setup done. So one bone for the bottom of the cube and another bone for the top of the cube. Now let's parent the cube to the armature with automatic weights. It won't be that great, so we will fix it a little bit. Let's go to weight paint, select the gradient, set it to 0, and clean the lower part of the cube from the weights of the upper bone. And let's do the same to the upper parts. Now let's copy the cube with bones, so we now have 3 equalizer strips. And then let's start animating. We are selecting the upper bone, only 0 frame. We set the keyframe for location. Then select the curve that we need. For the bone it will be Y location, as you can see. Make sure that the key on a curve is selected. And now again key, bake sound to F curves. And here we select our bass track. And it's done. Let's do the same for the mids and highs. Okay, looks good to me. Now let's bake all the actions. The process will be slightly different because we will be baking armature bones. Let's go to the pose mode, select all the bones, then press F3, type bake again, and now we will have the instrument for baking bones. Let's set these 3 check marks just as we did previously and press OK. Alright, now let's do the same for other armatures. After we're done baking, let's select all the armatures, so we'll see all the keyframes. We don't need any of these keyframes up and down there. Let's just select them, then press L and H to hide them. So we'll have only music curves. Then let's select the first keyframes, press S0, so they all will start from the same position. And actually we can change this position, let's make them start from a lower point. And now let's set the amplitude, just like we did in the beginning of this lesson. Let's select all the keyframes, press S, Y, and let's say 10. Now let's adjust it a little bit and see how it works. Well, it works pretty nicely. Let's listen to the music. Yeah, I'd say it works nicely. I made this scene as an example, so there are only 3 equalizer lines. If we want something more detailed, more interesting, of course we can just go back to Audacity and use the visual EQ effects to create not 3 different tracks, but more. Here we have 31 knobs, so let's say we can do a division 7888, so it will be 3 equalizer lines and 3 tracks to use in each line. Or we can do 5 times by 5 and 1 6. If you have different tracks for each instrument which are used in the audio track, it will be amazing and will work even better. Alright, back to Blender. Now we have 3 different actions for 3 different frequencies. And now, having this set of curves, we can create a ton of different visual effects which will be pulsating to the music. Here let me prepare in the background a scene that resembles the final scene. As you can see, here we have a disco ball, the play button that will start everything. Now let's organize the scene a little bit. Let's add camera. I've set the camera to orthographic, so we won't have any perspective. Now we need to turn auto start for animation off for all the objects that are animated, because we want them to start at the same time when the music starts. Now let's add a little animation to the play button. So it will just fly away when pressed. Then let's add a material to the sphere. I actually really like to use vectors for that because it looks very interesting. Let's put here texture coordinates generated. And as you can see, we have this interesting glowy sphere. Now let's add some bloom, and voila! As we will be using bloom in Verge3D as well, we need to enable use HDR rendering. Also, let's quickly assign the materials for the equalizer lines. And also let's make the world black. Now we are almost ready to export everything to Verge. But first we need to check the naming. The naming is important because we will be using visual logic and it will be much easier to navigate when the naming is correct. And now we are ready to export. My favorite part, export through F3 menu. And here is our project. If you are not yet familiar with Verge3D, how to create a project, please visit the link in the description on a tutorial for Verge3D beginners. Okay, now we need to go to puzzles and set up our visual logic. Here is our project and it definitely lacks bloom effect. Let's add it. Let's go to post-processing and add bloom. Pressing starts and our disco ball is glowing. Also, you may notice that the green color is more glowy than other colors, so we may want to fix it via emission strength for these materials. Well, for now, let's set up our bloom a little bit. And when we are happy with bloom, let's create the logic. The logic will be pretty simple. When we press the play button, everything starts playing. So let's go to Events, when clicked, and select the play button. Then let's go to Animation and select Play Animation. Here we need to select one by one all of our objects that are animated. I just copy and paste it and select one by one all of our animated objects. In the beginning, we will need to add the play button animation. Actually, let's give the play button a second to play its animation, and then the music and animations will start. For that we need time, after 1 second. Now let's just put all of our animation under the time puzzle. The time puzzle under the when clicked and play button animation before the time. Now we need to add our music. Let's go to the project folder and put our MP3 file into the project folder. Then let's copy its full name. Back to Verge3D. Now we need to initialize our music. For that, let's go to the tab Init, then press Audio Video and select this puzzle. Here we need to paste the full name of our track. Also, let's set it to music and copy it, Ctrl C. Now back to our main tab, let's go to Audio Video again, select the play puzzle and put it under the time puzzle. Then let's just paste Ctrl V our music puzzle and put it into the play puzzle. Now let's set all our animations to play only once. Alright, it's done. Let's save and reload the scene. Now let's try pressing the play button and everything works. Alright, looks great and everything is working. So now we have a finished application, which demonstrates the logic behind this effect. By the way, if you'd like to know how to create this disco ball, I will create a mini tutorial and post it on the forums in the topic for this tutorial. So please go there. The link will be in the description and I'll see you here. Okay, now this application still have some troubles. For example, if we go to another tab, the music continues playing and it can be pretty annoying. We don't want that. We want the music and the animation as well to stop when we go to another tab or when we close the window. For that we need a little bit of some advanced Verge magic. Let's go to HTML tab and select this puzzle on event of blur. Then in this field right here we need to go again to HTML and select this puzzle, and here we need to select window. So on event blur for window. Now after that let's go to audio video and select pause and copy paste the music puzzle. Alright, now we need for the music to continue when we go back to the page. So let's duplicate it. Change blur to focus and change pause to play. We can just duplicate the puzzle in the beginning. That should do the trick for music. When we minimize the window or go to another tab, it will pause. And when we go back, it will continue playing. Let's take a look at the puzzles of the final project that I created. And right away you may notice that there is a little bit more than we just previously created, but it is basically the same, just a little bit tuned up. Here we spot the event puzzle, the animations, then after 1 second, again music and animations are playing, and here on the event of blur, here are some additional puzzles. These are for the animations to pause and to resume. So the music with the animation both will stop when we go to another tab. Let's try it. So we open Blender, we go back, and our animation continues playing intact with music. And here on the top is a little bonus. I wanted the disco ball to always rotate. Of course we can do it in Blender, but it will be a different animation and it is just easier to set up right in Verge. Basically, I am telling Verge to rotate this object always, well, not always, but for 10,000 frames, so basically for a long time. It will be rotating using this node in the animation. Animate param from 0 to 1, duration 1, and repeat 10,000 times. Then under that we need to go to object and select change local rotation puzzle by 1 degree, the one we can get from the numbers list. Now on each frame the disco ball will be rotating by Z axis by 1 degree 10,000 times. Also, it will not interfere with any animation that we already have on a disco ball, so they will be just mixing together. Before we finish, I would like to talk a little bit about one little but important technical detail. In short, when we are animating in Blender for Verge and we are using linear curves, not the Bezier but linear curves, we may encounter some animation problems. You see, by default Blender starts from the first frame on a timeline, not from the frame 0. And when we are animating, well, at least me, I always tend to go to frame 0, well, because that is the left border, that's the timeline lets me to go to. It is important to set the start of the timeline to 0, so it will be easier for Verge to catch the first frame. This curve is used to rotate the texture, as you can see. And that's where I had this problem, or the texture was not rotating in Verge. Okay, so after setting the first timeline frame to 0, we need to make this curve Bezier again, just to be sure. The handles need to look at each other to create a straight line, because by default they will be curved, just like that. The problem lies with these two things combined, the starting keyframe of the timeline and linear interpolation of the curve. Actually, quite recently on Verge3D forums, one of the users created a tutorial about this exact problem, and it was a huge help. Shout out to Xeon, the link will be in the description. Alright, and that's all. When working with music, please keep in mind the copyright question, because copyright laws nowadays are pretty strict. It's always better to be safe. I'd recommend contacting the studio or the rights holder or the corporation which owns the rights to the music track that you would like to use, and make sure that they are okay with you using it for your 3D scene. Okay, it was Pavel Koto. See you soon in the next tutorial and on Verge3D forums.